These 9 podcasts have been more important to my development as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, as a man than my $100,000 plus MBA ever was. That being said, let me run you through this list of YouTube podcast shows that are absolutely life-changing. The very first one I want to start with is what I consider probably the OG of this space, and it's the Tim Ferriss podcast. And I say he's the OG, at least for me, because I originally started going down this path pretty heavy in 2007 when I picked up Tim's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. It's an incredible book. I recommend it. I'll link to the notes in it. Even though it's 16 years old, I'm sure there's a revised edition, but the principles that are in it are still true today, of course. He was, to me, one of the original digital nomads as well, trying to teach people how to work for minimal time, for maximum impact, and to be able to travel and do it. And he's got some great stories in that book. But so he started, if you're not familiar, a podcast, The Tim Ferriss Show, where he interviews world-class, highest level athletes, actors, scientists, the experts, chess players, martial artists, the experts in any field, and he tries to find not only what they do, their routines and etc., their tips and tricks, but he tries to find a common thread that runs through all of them. He's all about life hacking, biohacking, trying to find the routines, the shortcuts for all of us to gain self-improvement and mastery. He also compiled all of those facts in another book called Tools for Titans. I can link to that below as well. If you haven't checked out any of his writings, you really should, and definitely the podcast. Again, there's routines on diets and exercise and how to learn and reading faster, speed reading, psychedelics, building businesses, scaling, the whole 9. Some of my favorite episodes I probably would say will be Shooting from the Hip. Naval, Ravikant is probably one of my absolute favorites. And surprisingly, I really enjoyed Jamie Foxx. I was surprised I enjoyed that so much. And also Arnold Schwarzenegger. I really enjoyed both of those interviews a lot, and they caught me off guard. Now, I started with the OG, but for the other 8, I am going to go in the order of YouTube subscribers, starting from the least and going to the most. So the first on this list is going to be Andy Frisella, the Real as F podcast. I'm not going to say it because this YouTube channel has advertisers and we don't swear, but it's the Real AF podcast with 213,000 subscribers. And the Andy Frisella podcast is really a motivational podcast for me. The guy has a very strong will, strong spirit about it. Just listening to him gets me fired up. When I start feeling down on myself or lazy, I can just turn on Andy and he really gets in my ear and gets me motivated to get off my butt and to do something. In fact, the way I got turned on to him in the first place was he created a challenge called Hard 75, where you have to do this routine for 75 days. When you read it on paper, it seems pretty easy. It seems like you could get through it. I have failed it twice. I'm just going to be honest. The Hard 75, I have failed it twice. I need to try it again, but timing is so important on this thing. You'll see it once you read it. But he talked about business and about motivation, and I think probably off the hip, 2 of my favorite episodes are one on manifesting dreams, and then anything on the Hard 75. In fact, when I was attempting to complete the Hard 75, I downloaded the whole Hard 75 series on Spotify as well, and would listen to it during my exercise sessions to help keep me motivated. Exercise is part of the routine of the Hard 75. Number 7, Cody Sanchez. Cody owns Contrarian Capital. It's a portfolio of businesses that are doing 50 million or better in revenue. She says they're probably not things you've ever heard of because they're car washes, they're laundromats, they're everyday small businesses. She did spend over 15 years on Wall Street in private equity, investing hundreds of millions of dollars. Wasn't her money, of course, but she says she got burnt out and she wanted to touch real businesses that weren't tied to 60, 70, 80 hour plus work weeks. So of course she talks a lot about acquiring small businesses and making them better, and then some other startup stuff and scaling. And you'll see a wide variety of videos on there about her talking about making money with laundromats and vending machines and window cleaning services and Airbnbs and so on, but it's a lot of valuable information, and I really do love her approach. Buying maybe dated businesses from this retirement age group, let's say a plumber or electrician or a car wash that has no digital presence, has no website, has no digital marketing, and they've got a little bit of revenue coming in. She comes in, fixes them up, brings them into 2023 and makes them profitable, which then you can turn around and sell them for a 4X. So she has some great examples of that as well. Coming in at number 6 is Ed Mlet with 740,000 subs. Ed's show is very similar to Tim Ferriss style, where he's interviewing world-class, highest performing people in business and sports, etc. Of course, it's a different flavor because Ed's personality is different than Tim's, but it's a very inspiring show. He also has a lot of his story, where his rags to riches story, which I found very inspiring too. Seems like a really honest and ethical guy. I really like Ed's personality. Some of my favorite episodes definitely are going to be Dr. Joe Dispenza. I remember that one clearly. It was like, wow. And after hearing that, I went and got Dr. Joe Dispenza's books and got in one of his courses, started following other stuff of his on YouTube. I also picked up Ed Mlet's book, which is good. I will list all of that in the description below. Another couple really inspiring interviews on the Ed Mlet show for me was Tim Grover, the personal trainer to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and David Goggins. You can't listen to either one of those guys without having that Andy Frisella effect that I talked about earlier, that you just want to get off your butt and do something, and you feel lazy. I don't care if you put in a 14-hour day and did the gym and everything else. If you listen to those two guys, you'll realize you didn't leave it all on the field and you got a little bit left in you and you got to push a little bit harder. Very motivating. Number 5 is Alex Hormozi with 955,000 subscribers at present. Alex is relatively new on my radar. Just in the last couple of years, I've gotten into his videos. Very different approach. He goes counter intuitive to what a lot of the other guys are saying, which I can appreciate. But he did $100 million in sales business, and I think they had a big exit. He talks a lot about customer acquisitions, sales, scaling businesses, market trends, staying ahead of them. Some of the videos that I can remember that are really good. He has a great video that recently came out, I believe, or I just found out about it in the last few months, on AI and where that's going and how to make money with it, artificial intelligence. And he has several on this is what I would do if I was broke, how to get rich, how to make $1 million this year type of videos that are very informational. A few of them he breaks out the easel pad and maps out the plan for you. It's very powerful, so I really like his style and what he's doing. He teaches a lot on sales, which is a big thing for me as well, so I enjoy that. Number 4 is Earn Your Leisure with 1.16 million subscribers currently, and it is a business podcast where they interview people and dive deep into various business topics and other styles of interviews, but I can speak mainly from just the ones that I've watched. So they talk about everything from Airbnb, credit, business credit, personal credit, real estate, stocks, building a trucking company, making money with Turo, a lot of great content on that business stuff. They also have interviews. I've watched a few that have been very entertaining as well as informational. Steve Harvey was one, Rick Ross, Mark Cuban, but some really great information all around their channel, and they just seem to be exploding and continually growing. But I've been following them for years. Really good stuff, especially on the credit, Airbnb, all the stuff I mentioned before. Really impressed with what I saw on there if you're looking to start a business. Number 3 on our list is the Huberman Lab with Andrew Huberman. This is probably the most unique podcast YouTube show that I'm going to mention on the list today. And you think, how does it apply to business? Listen, if you're not in the best shape, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, then you're not going to be able to perform in business to your highest ability. If you're depressed, if you're abusing alcohol or nicotine, if you don't sleep right, if you don't eat right, and if you don't take care of yourself and you don't have high energy, you can't sustain it. Plus, what is the value in building a business, making tons of money if you're working 100 hours a week and you're not happy and you're sick and you're without energy and etc. The old airline adage where you've got to put your mask on first before you can help anybody else. So you got to take care of yourself first before you're able to lead people, before you're able to grow a business or an organization. And I found this to be the most incredible podcast to dive into any of those topics about self-development. Now, Huberman is a neuroscientist and a professor at Stanford University. This guy is really smart, but he can really break things down and talk to dummies like me and make me me understand it better. He talks a lot about psychology, biology, medicine. He emphasized the importance of optimizing brain health and body health through lifestyle choices such as diet, exercise, sleep. Some of the episodes that I found fascinating that stood out to me was the episodes on alcohol, how it affects the body and the brain, cold exposure, which then got me into ice baths, meditation, which I had been doing for a few years, but it really explained some of the effects that I was having, made me understand what was happening to my brain as I meditated. It was absolutely fascinating. And another episode on how the brain works, neuroplasticity. For those of you who didn't know, I have my MBA, obviously, with this video, but I always said if I ever decided to go back to get my doctorate, I'd write my thesis on neuroplasticity for sure. So I'm absolutely fascinated with this podcast. The guy is so intelligent, unbelievable. I think you'll really love it. Number 2 on my list, and probably the most impactful of everything on the list for me personally, has been Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu. He is an entrepreneur. You may know him from developing the Quest bar, Quest Nutrition, very big in fitness circles and bodybuilding circles. Tom had I don't know what the number was, I guess I could Google it, but something like $1 billion exit from Quest. And now he has this Impact Theory show. Like the Tim Ferriss Show, he interviews a lot of incredible people. They also have a community and a course that you can join. I was a member for a matter of months, the $100 a month course, and it was life-changing going through that course. And I have journals full of notes and lessons that I'm still practicing and learning to implement in my life, but just absolutely fascinating. And Tom pulls no punches, and he has some fascinating information to provide. There are so many rabbit holes you could go down with Tom because he has such a diverse group of guests and topics. But if anything, I might start with Mindset, his Carol Dweck interview. And that book, Tom turned me on to that book, and he says, in his words, it's the most important book written in the English language. It was life-changing for me, I'll have to admit it. I also will put a link to that book below, Carol Dweck's Mindset. Another 3 videos that I've recommended often to people if you're wanting to get into the Web3 Bitcoin crypto space. He has 3 great interviews that were almost back to back that absolutely blew my mind and changed the way I felt about Bitcoin, crypto, and Web 3.0. Those would be the interviews with Robert Breedlove, Anthony Pompliano, I think is how you say his name, and Michael Saylor, the Bitcoin maximalist. Those are incredible interviews that will be a great introduction for anybody who doesn't understand Bitcoin and crypto, or you want to go a little bit deeper into it. I would check those 3 out as well. Last but not least, coming in at number 9 with the most subscribers is Valuetment, hosted by Patrick Bet-David, 4.01 million subscribers. It's a capitalism and entrepreneurship podcast, a lot of strong work ethic, sales, leadership stuff, very valuable stuff. In fact, as I was mentioning, I've got Patrick's book sitting right here beside me, and I saw it jump up on the list, Your Next 5 Moves. It's a great book. I'll link to it as well. Some of the episodes that I've really enjoyed, going from memory, the ones that stand out to me is he did multiple interviews with mobsters and pulled out some leadership things from them, which was fascinating. I've always been entertained by mobster movies and mobster stories. So to see that kind of from the mobster lifestyle added to the business entrepreneurship side of things was really neat, and it definitely stands out in my memory. He had an interview with Jordan Peterson, and anything with Jordan Peterson I love. That was pretty good. And he has another video that actually led me to buying this book, but I think the video was Your Next 15 Moves, not Your Next 5. But it was a very powerful video, taught me a lot, so I highly recommend that show as well. I hope you've enjoyed these. Let me know which ones are your favorite. Let me know which ones you didn't know about. Maybe mention an episode or 2 in the comments that you thoroughly enjoyed from this list that other people who are watching this need to go and check out. You guys probably know more than I. That's 9 shows that have hundreds or thousands of episodes, and I obviously haven't gotten to all of them, so point me and others in the direction of the best episodes. If you think there's a podcast that should knock one of these 9 out, or a YouTube show podcast that should knock one of these 9 out, let me know in the comments as well. Maybe I'll watch it and update my list or make a brand new list.